Cool. Then we start. And yeah, a bit about me in the beginning. So I'm not sure how many people did know me before, how many people joined because of the message I tried to spread a bit. So I'm Daniel. I studied computer science and worked in that area around computer vision, and then in the later years also then a lot of AI or machine learning. I was for 5 years, that was the last stage in a company named Tomra, where we did build sorting machines. So it was perceptive AI. We used cameras to understand what was in front of us and applied machine learning algorithms on top of it. And yeah, that was quite cool, but ChatGPT was getting me excited, and I was investing way more time into that in the evening than morning hours. And then beginning of the year I made the decision, and since July I'm working on my own as a creator, trying to consume the news, which is already a full-time job, and then share my knowledge, and this webinar is one part of that. And to get started, I want to give you a short introduction to NotebookLM. And that is a page, you all know it. What I didn't know for quite some time is that Google is having the top-level domain .google. And if you go to that page, so notebooklm.google, you will see something like this, which is telling you what the tool is. So that is the starting page. It's telling you it's just using Gemini 1.5, so most likely you all know, but I added it here. It's a tool from Google, or more concrete, Google DeepMind, the AI business stream of Google, and Gemini 1.5 is the currently strongest model they have, and they are quite competitive with the well-known other models from OpenAI and also Anthropic. And the other link, notebooklm.google.com, that is the link you will open your workspace with. Also the one, if you click on the Try NotebookLM, you will go to the second one. You should have the slides, and in theory you can also then click on the links live while I'm talking. But talking about NotebookLM, what is the vision? What is Google building here? And the thing which is different from all the other chatbots and AI tools is that it is source grounded. So there are also other approaches doing it, but Google is one of the few who is building a tool for the masses, and somehow it was taking off, but more to that later. Source grounded, what does that mean? You have to add sources. You can even not get started to use AI if you don't add a source, and everything you request is answered by using your sources as input for the generated answer. So there might be questions where that is not working to 100%, but in theory, if you ask something which is not in your sources, you will not get an answer. So if you have NotebookLM open and open a notebook, or maybe the chat one, and you ask about some celebrity or other things which are not in the sources, you will get an answer which is stating that's not in the sources I have, so I cannot give you an answer. And on top, or second, it's content polymorph. So sounds very technical, but the idea or the vision of the team building it is to consume content in a different form than it was published. So if you get a PDF report which is 100 pages long, you should have possibilities with the tool to convert it to a different format, and then maybe consume the most important points in a 10-minute podcast, or summarize it in a shorter form, in bullet points. And yeah, content polymorph means you have content in one form and you transform it into another one. And there is a glimpse of that already there. And for many people, that was also the starting point to recognizing the tool. But we will also see that in a second. Because next is the history. So I want to talk a little bit about what happened so far for NotebookLM. And for that, I tap out and I go to one notebook. That is one I shared with you. I'm not sure if you're able to use it right now. It's not important if you're able to use it. Feel free to click around and do anything. You shouldn't be able to destroy what I shared. I'm not 100% sure. I did try before, but maybe yeah, you find a way. And if you look on the left, you see sources. If you click on the plus, you most likely know that already. Or if you start a new notebook, you have this screen open where you add a source. And it's different options. You can choose a file which you upload from your PDF, text files, or special text files called Markdown, even audio. You can use Google Documents, especially the docs and slides, a website, YouTube, and you can even paste text. What I did for this notebook is mainly I was adding news article and YouTube videos which talk about NotebookLM. And so I was adding the official blog articles from Google, and I was adding interviews, mostly then from YouTube, or from two persons working on it and are very visible. We will see later who that is. And we see then many sources here on the left. So I zoomed in quite a lot to give you a chance to read stuff. Normally it's looking a little bit different. Font will be a little bit smaller. And yeah, most likely if you have used it already, you can now start typing and then you will see something like in ChatGPT with a chat. So one question I did already before and we will jump into that, but I can just redo it. What is the history of NotebookLM? And then you can try to make it a little bit more concrete to steer it in the direction that you get outputs you are looking for. Give me a response in the style. Maybe we do it then like this. State update or news, whatever. So we give it a try. Maybe that prompt was not good. And it somehow looks different here. So maybe I just found during the webinar something fresh. So the signs I used seem to be some special signs. Nevertheless, it looked quite similar to what I was getting before. And you already see the source grounding, which is quite cool. And one of the main benefits the tool has. Like stated, everything is grounded in the sources you provided. And if I click on one, for example, then it will jump to the source and the area which was used to create that sentence. So the update from July 23. And yeah, we see also that that fits. And then if I click on the next one, we jump there. And Torsten already has a question, so feel free to jump in.
Right. First of all, I wanted to ask if I shall ask now or later. I assume that it is now. Since I remember you can only upload 50 sources. So if you have like thousands of articles, you chunk them together. And if then Google NotebookLM gives you the source, does it actually go into, say, the 53rd article which you chunked together and tell you this is the part of the article which I'm referring to now?
Yes. Yeah, in the end,
Wow.
you were explaining it in the way you just concatenate the articles, and even if in the end it then handled like a really long article, and you will jump exactly to that area, that passage.
Okay.
In the end, if you want to know a little bit of the technical background, so the model behind it, Gemini, is having the biggest context model right now of all the frontier models. It's having 2 million of tokens in theory. I'm not sure how many tokens are used for the context window in NotebookLM. But that means there are multiple books which can be in the source. And then on top there is one technique in general used if you work with sources, which is called retrieval augmented generation, which is looking to somehow similarities in a first step, and then using of all the sources provided, these sources which are similar or to the question you were asking, and then using that as input of the answer, which is then going to be generated with the context window. But it's enormous what you can do, and one of the best things is you jump to the exact passage. And I was even reading today one person in Twitter who was stunned by that, because he was naming exactly that. He was having thousands of pages, multiple books, and it was jumping into exactly that passage it is then referring to. Okay. You see a lot of links, maybe even too many to read, so you can always try to rephrase your question. But one thing you can also then say is save to note. If you do that, I close the chat now, and maybe also close the sidebar, then you have saved responses here. And I was asking before also for the history. I think I phrased it there as a timeline. And then I get this. So that was the answer, and I was pinning it. Then you get the note, which you can read. It's stating here it's a view only response. So you can't do anything. And the other thing you might recognize, you have the sources, but it's only numbers here. You cannot click it anymore. It's text. If you scroll down, you don't see anything. If you look at the note unopened, so I closed it again, you see 10 citations that's in the bottom, and then you can click on the first, but it's not opening, but you see the text, so you can copy paste it, search for it, you see where it is from, and you can also find it, but it's not as good as in the chat we were having before, where one click is directly bringing you there. So limitation to 10 citations, even if it was more. We were seeing in the chat it was having 27. So if we save the note, we lose 17, and we cannot click. The first 10 we will be able to recover, but not as convenient as before. One of the main drawbacks, the developers or the people building NotebookLM are aware of that, but it's a current limitation, and hopefully that will change soon. Okay, Torsten again.
Sorry. Are those notes persistent, or do you lose them when you close the chat, or do they stay forever until you delete them?
Good question. They will stay. But the chat will not stay, which is a drawback. We will see that later in a slide for limitations. But the notes, they are there. Nevertheless, I always say it's a cloud product. You don't own anything. If you want to make sure, copy it to your own files. That's my approach. So I use a note-taking system which is using local files. There, everything is under my control. But the tool here is too good to not use it. And yeah, if you then want to work with it, and what I did copy all of that and then create a new note with the Add Note button. And then I have it here, and there I can now write stuff, which I couldn't do before. And that is then a short history about it. And yeah, maybe just briefly, because the time is already running quite fast going through it. So it started in May 2023. There was something announced, Project Tailwind, in Google I/O, and I still remember that day, and it sounds quite interesting. And yeah, a little bit later it was then launched in the US as NotebookLM, so new name. Later in December, so half a year later, quite some time passed, you could save notes, so that is what we just have seen. And then in June, so more or less 1 year after the initial release in the US, it was released to 200 more countries, including Germany, where I'm living. And it was already there, but more like a niche product. To some extent it still is. But what then happened in September was getting a lot of awareness in the space, and that were the audio overviews, and we will have a look at that later. And in September you were able to add more sources, and in October audio overviews were getting an update. And now you can customize it, but a little bit more to that later. And there was then also last month the announcement of the business version. That's the history. In theory, we can also, because I added the slides also here, so we could also have a look here, but I'm not sure if that is large enough. So I will just jump back to this view and make it full screen again. And I will start talking a little bit of what I'm doing, because if you add a lot of text, you have quite a powerful tool, because as we discussed, it's jumping back exactly to the sources. And I read a lot, and I then started to play around with ebooks in NotebookLM. And there is one drawback. Ebooks today mostly have a so-called DRM, digital right management, which avoids that you do conversions and use it in other tools. So if you buy a book on the Kindle, in theory it should stay there. But as noted here, the ebooks, you can free them from Amazon, Adobe, and Barnes, which are the DRM schemes which are available. I don't dive into detail here, but you see the tool Calibre. They are stating there is no way in Calibre directly to go around it, but if you use a Google search, you will find a way to do in Calibre that you have the ability to convert books to other formats, including also just a simple TXT, which then again can be used as input to NotebookLM. And another thought I just want to mention, because it's really cool, and I already bought many books of it, but it's only always in bundles for a limited amount of time. That's the Humble Bundle. It started for gamers long ago. That was also how I was getting aware of it. And now you also have book bundles, and that is one which is, I think, still active today for data visualization. And then you get 21 books from the Wiley family of books, and you can choose how much you spend, and it's €16, so roughly $16, and they are all DRM free. We can directly use them in NotebookLM or convert them with Calibre to TXT and then import them. So I also want to show that briefly, that is possible. And for that I have another notebook which I didn't share with you. And there I added one book from Dan Martell called Buy Back Your Time. And if you add a source, you always get in the beginning a short summary. And then you see here also in the scroll bar, it's quite small. That is the complete book. So it's not formatted perfectly. You have more new lines than needed, but that is not disturbing NotebookLM. And then you can start to chat with it. You can chat with the book, you can ask it questions, and then you get also the link again to the source. And yeah, in theory, we could start doing that, but just chatting with the book. But we will have later a short chat and a little bit more advanced. So chatting with the book is already quite cool, but nothing I really want to show right now. And with that, going back to slideshow. And going to the next topic already, which is audio overview. And like I stated, that was one of the moments where NotebookLM was getting a lot of press, and people were super hyped, and was going viral on social media, and was a lot of noise about it. And what is it? Most likely many of you already know. So that is the standard view of NotebookLM. If you click on Notebook Guide in the lower right, this view will open, and it's already quite helpful because it's already giving you a summary of your sources in the notebook. And you can, with a button click, create different types of content, which are then can be added as a note. But the audio overviews are in the upper right. And in the beginning, you had just the button generate. And now you have also a button customize. So you can add instructions, a prompt, what you want to have. And even before, with just the generate, it was already really good. So you have two hosts which are talking to each other, and it really feels natural. So the quality of it was really somehow having the human touch, and it was better than anything there was before. And being source grounded was also in most cases leading to really a good quality and no hallucination. So there might be here and there stuff which is not true. You always need to be aware of that, especially also in the audio overviews. For example, if I go and summarize a book, it was at least once getting the publication date wrong, even if it was stated in the book. I don't know why, but it always can happen. And yeah, one tip: if you customize your generation and you type something in and it's really cool and you want to reuse that, copy and paste it to a note in NotebookLM, because if you enter the prompt and then you send it for the generation, the prompt will be gone. There is no way to get it again. So save it either in NotebookLM if you maybe want to reuse it, or save it somewhere else. And now we go a little bit into different insights about the audio generation. So if you didn't try it before, it's for sure a must. Try it afterwards. But it's stating English only. And normally you would think, okay, that is then a limitation. But you can prompt it to do other languages. And I noted it down here. So you can have a customized prompt, so what you're looking for, and then in the end, or only as the only input to customize, you can add the sentence and insert then a language. And you already see doing it multiple times might help. I'm not 100% sure if needed, but it works like that. And one example I also shared here, that is then a German summary of the book, Buy Back Your Time. And they have a little bit of English accent, also like the voices in ChatGPT, but it's still quite good. And yeah, you can experiment for sure with that. Then there was a question from the Google form if you can get the transcript easily of it. So transcript means you want the written text of what the people are talking about. And you can do that directly in NotebookLM, even if it's not obvious. So you after you generated something, you have the 3-dot menu on the right. You click on that, then you can download it. So you download then an audio file, a WAV file, which you can add as a source again in as a standard upload area. And then you see already it's a symbol on the left that is an audio file. But if you click on it, you will see the transcript. So you will see the written text of the spoken words. And then you can copy it somewhere else and work with it. So far, there is in NotebookLM no possibility to change the audio generation. You can do that in other tools, but not in NotebookLM. Then one problem is the length of the generation. Like I stated, I'm working with books and then prompting it for a book summary. And in the beginning it was fine. Somehow then Google was changing the way audio is generated, and the generations were quite longer. So I targeted 20 minutes or less, which in the beginning was the case. And then you were having really long audios, 45 minutes and longer sometimes. Solution I had so far was just trying multiple times. It's not perfect, a little bit labor intensive, but sometimes it works. I try in the custom prompts to make clear that I want something short, but I did never found anything which is 100% reliable. And then a few days back there was an interview with Stephen Johnson, who is in the NotebookLM team. And I was asking him that question, and he was stating that the workaround they use in the team right now is to ask for a short summary of the long input beforehand, and then state in the customization step only use that summary as input. So that is the current workaround. Just if you try for shorter audio clips, summary first, and then use that as an input for the audio generation. And yeah, a couple of days back, a week back, I started then a podcast with NotebookLM, and idea is to have book summaries which should help people to decide if they want to read the book or not. So I created a custom prompt to do that, and then my plan now is to do that for 100 days. Just share a book and then see if people like it, or if I'm talking to the void, and then I will stop again. But doing that already was or is quite some fun, because I have to books I was reading before nice recaps and insights again, which I did not really recall beforehand, but then listening to the audio overview I was reminded that was the case. And so it's already really cool just for me. Some drawbacks are that recently also with the longer episodes you have more and more repetition happening, especially in the long episodes. That stuff is stated multiple times, and even in short episodes that's happening sometimes, which is not super nice. But what I'm going to do now is also then to cut the audio and publish it afterwards. It's more work, but it's still cool and not perfect right now, but something you can work around. Okay, so much to audio overview. Any questions to that? Okay, cool. Then we go to Readwise highlights. Likely many of you know the tool Readwise. I will summarize briefly what it is. So in the end it started as a tool which is resurfacing the Kindle highlights to you, and nowadays it's also having a lot of other sources, and you should have then a daily view on book highlights or article highlights you did take in the past, just to remind yourself of what you marked in the past, and give it some attention when time passed. But on top, they have in the note-taking area, PKM, many tools like Evernote, many of you might know, or Notion. They are some of the connecting piece of highlights from reading to these note-taking systems. And you see on the left my tool of choice, Logseek. It's having local files. Many people use Obsidian also because of the local files. But what I integrated also quite recently was the NotebookLM integration. But most likely too small to read. But if you look closer, in the end, it's just a Google Docs export. So nothing special, but still cool. And you can set it up and state if everything should be exported to a Google Docs, if it should be one file, if you want to have separate files for the different sources. So one book should be one file, one option. If it should export automatically, so if you want to update stuff, and you can configure that, and then get everything you highlighted in the past into NotebookLM. And that on its own, it's quite powerful. Drawback, to some extent, is that is a paid tool. So I think at least it was $8 per month, and I'm still paying that as a quite old user. So that is one option to get personal information into NotebookLM, which can make a big difference. And that is what I wanted to show you right now in a short demo. Because there was also one question, and I think it's one of the most powerful workflows you can think of. And you can even add multiple books like we were already discussing. But here I was adding one book, Buy Back Your Time. And then on top, I added my Readwise highlights. You see here now 10 files, which you can add in one go. Why 10 files? Somehow the export right now is after 200 pages, it's creating a new file. And then I can ask it to combine the book with my highlights. And I will do that with one example right now. Maybe call it surprising connections between my Readwise highlights and the book Buy Back Your Time. There was even a typo. I can surprising. Or I could ask for connections to other books which are similar, or anything which of the concept is covered in other books. And yeah, then like we already know, we get an answer, focus on high value task, which is a topic in Buy Back Your Time. And then it's referring me to the Tim Ferriss show. So I also take notes from podcasts, and then I can jump to the sources. So in theory, we can then also have a look. It was from March 17th, so that was the date when I was taking the note. How to buy back time to grow your business. And then a little bit deeper, I should also see that it is a Tim Ferriss podcast. Don't see it right now, but it's for sure in. Otherwise, it will not know here. And so in the end, you can combine what you have read before, what resonated with you, with the book there, and have a conversation with it. And even can also ask for an audio overview. So you can ask to make it in a different media to listen to it. Quite cool. Okay. Any questions so far? Then we jump into collaboration. I tried before, hopefully it worked. So I tried also with my second Google account and explored the feature. So you can add others as viewer and as editor. The interesting thing, if you add someone as viewer, like you should be right now for the notebook about NotebookLM, you can have your own chats. No one else can see it, as far as I understand. So I was even not as an owner seeing what my second account was chatting about. I don't have a proof, but I didn't see anything. And you can generate your own audio overviews. On the other hand, my chats are also not shared with you, and my audio overviews are also not accessible by you. I can share audio overviews on their own, but if I share a notebook, you have a separate chat and separate audio overview. But you can look at all the sources, you can see all the notes, you cannot create new notes. And that is a way of viewer. If you add someone as an editor or upgrade someone to an editor, you can do everything in the notebook like you do. So you can really work together with other people on a shared project, which is quite cool. And then last month there was the announcement of the business version of NotebookLM. And according to Google, there are already over 80,000 organizations using it. Most likely the private version, because the other one just started. But they have on that page, linked below here, a lot of use cases from sales over training to marketing, customer support and product development, all with a little bit of ideas what you can do. And the possibilities are endless, I want to say. But there are also limitations. And we already covered some of them. One is that the links to the sources are only clickable in the chat. And one big drawback, I already mentioned, is that the chat disappears after some time. Hopefully that will change soon, or that at least you can store the links in a clickable format. So that is already we discussed. Then YouTube. YouTube is possible as a source right now, but it's using the transcript. So sometimes that is automatically generated and not really good. And with that also then the quality of the chats with the YouTube video are suffering. Sometimes there is no transcript and then you cannot edit. In theory, or also in practice, but a little bit more technical expertise is needed. But that is how I did it before the YouTube import was there. There is a tool which you can use to download the YouTube videos and then create a transcript on yourself with Whisper or another tool. The Whisper is from OpenAI, but you can also do it with another tool, or likely also upload just the audio of it directly to NotebookLM and then have, like we have seen with the podcast before, having it transcribed on its own. And then one more limitation for YouTube is that you cannot add really fresh videos. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I stumbled across that limitation on Twitter. Then audio generations we already covered. So you don't have other voices, only the male and female host you likely already know. You cannot control the length. And then somehow the long generations now, they learn from real live podcasts that there are commercial breaks, and feels a little bit strange, but it's fine. And then I want to, we're already ending it more or less, what I prepared as input, but some inspirational workflows. And one which was getting some attention, and I think it's quite cool, is using your own LinkedIn profile as a source. Especially then if you create an audio overview, which is having always a positive tone and positive way of thinking, so you get a really nice conversation from two people or two AIs about your life or your professional life, which sounds quite cool in nearly all cases. So it's public information. If you have a LinkedIn profile, give it a try. It's really cool. You can just import the website. And then you can also chat with it, of course. And one example is you can ask for next steps in your career, what it would suggest, and just have fun exploring it. Somehow similar, or at least connected, people started to upload their diaries to it, and then created an audio overview, and again, positive tone, positive way of thinking. It's very often uplifting. You can chat with your diary. And then there is one thing inspired by Dan Schipper, which is also a creator in the AI space. He is doing something similar with different tools, and he was then prompting AI to generate future diary entries out of the past ones, especially when he is doing or having a difficult decision in front of him. He was asking for one diary entry where he was choosing A and one where he was choosing B, and somehow then reading it, or in this case also listening to it, might give you a good or a bad feeling and might help you with your decision. So I really think that is a cool opportunity or a cool option, but I added a small caution in the bottom. You add personal information in your diary, very likely. And even if Google is stating that your data is not used, recently they added a notification that it might be reviewed by humans. It's still uploaded to their service, so think if you want to do that. But I wanted to share what people are doing, and I think it's cool. Then, a little bit more in the business world, there was a recent article about that, and it's going in the direction of customer relationship management software, so CRM software, where you as a company organize all the information from your customers, and there are tools which are expensive, but somehow needed, so all big companies having that. Also the company I worked before was having their CRM tool. But there was then one company experimenting with NotebookLM, and the real cool thing was that they stated we didn't need to add any structure because we didn't have such a system, but we had thousands of emails from 10 years, and we just exported all the mails, imported them into NotebookLM, and then we're able to chat about customers with it. That article, quite interesting to read. They are stating that CRM software will do that shift from needing very structured data to no structure at all, and Gen AI will figure it out, and maybe even making these type of software obsolete. So bold take. I'm not sure if that will be the case, but quite worth a read from my point of view, and shows the possibilities NotebookLM might have or might bring, especially with the grounded information or grounded sources. Then, already mentioned him before, Stephen Johnson, who is the editorial director of NotebookLM. He was stating multiple use cases, and one which he is talking about is adding all the readwise highlights like we have seen before, so everything he consumed before. And he's an author and has written multiple books, so he was also adding all his books. and that results then in a good map of his intellectual work, because it's having more or less everything he consumed and everything he was creating as an output. And he is stating that that is his full second brain, and he's going to that notebook very often to chat and trying to work on ideas he is having, or even finding ideas, connecting thoughts, and getting ideas. And on top, he also shared, which I think is quite cool, a prompt which is quite simple, and it's asking for the most surprising information in the document. And he stated that somehow the model Gemini, which is used to answer the question, is having a good taste in doing that, and he was getting very often very good answers. I also started to use it, and would advise you to do the same. So quite simple, and maybe just by asking that question you already get something interesting from the document you uploaded or whatever you are processing. And next is stay up to date about NotebookLM. So you see that also in the upper right, there is a button to Discord, which is a chat platform. It's a little bit like a board, a forum, and it's the official one. And there is plenty of information, people asking questions, helping each other, sharing answers, sharing workflows, but also the people working on the tool are there. So if you really want to become a power user or use the tool more, that is the place to go. And you already see at the numbers. So I was presenting two here, one in the end 1 week ago, and then one from yesterday, and it was having close to 80,000 members 1 week ago, and then already 8,000 more 1 week later. So it's growing really fast, and not everyone using NotebookLM is in there, but there are a lot of discussions happening. It has a search, and just jump in, be passive, search for what you're looking for, but also ask questions. You will very often get the reply you are looking for. Then way smaller, but I like it also. It's a subreddit, only 7,800 members, but not that crowded. You can also get some inspiration from there. And last is also a platform I'm on, Twitter/X, and the special thing is that Stephen Johnson, who is the editorial director, is active there, and Ryder Martin, who is the senior product manager for NotebookLM. So they are both active and sharing content, so sharing when they are on a podcast or an interview, and very often they share insights there. And then last but not least, that's me. So I also go more and more into that direction of working with NotebookLM and in general generative AI tools to consume content better and transform what you're reading in an easier way for you to extract the information you are looking for, or also identify what is worth reading and what's not. So that's me. And that's already it. So you already know now my X profile. On top, I write a weekly newsletter about these topics, and that's what I prepared. So if there are questions, feel free to raise your hand and start a discussion.
I don't have a question, but it was very exhaustive. Thank you very much. It already helped me a lot. It was excellent timing for me because next week I'll use NotebookLM for a client of mine, or at least I hope I can use it. So thank you.
Very cool. Thanks for your feedback, Torsten. Appreciate that. Okay, then we have in the chat. Okay, Momo is asking, have you tried a local software similar to this, like GPT for all? Yes, I tried it, and to some extent I see the similarities. So maybe for the bigger audience here, I already stated it's using Gemini, it's from Google, everything is cloud-based. There are tools which do stuff on your own hardware, so it's more privacy-friendly, privacy-focused, and GPT for all is one open source project which is giving you that chat capabilities, but it's using that retrieval augmented generation where you can add files and then chat with the files. It's also giving you then the links to the files, but at least when I tried, and it's already now again a couple of months back, it was for sure not on the same level. It was very often giving me answers which were unrelated to my question, and NotebookLM feels powerful. And GPT for all, I like the local approach, but it's not there yet. Then on top, with the audio generations, there were now multiple tools created as side projects. Also, Meta was jumping on, so there were indie developers stitching together tools with open source libraries, and also Meta was with their open source tools creating somehow a clone of NotebookLM. I tried them, and today they are also not there yet. So it's not set in stone that Google will lead with that forever, but as of today they do something right. So they have a really powerful grounding in the sources, which is working brilliant in most cases, and the audio overviews having a natural feeling which was not there before, and all the competitors are not there yet. Might change, but that's the state of today. Then we have a thanks from Dave. Very welcome. Happy that you joined. Another thanks from Broke. Then we have a question from Prisa. What's the difference between Notebook Business and Microsoft Copilot for Enterprise? My company is using Copilot. Would it provide same features as Notebook Business? So, Copilot for Enterprise. Let me think now. So they were having the capabilities also to create custom GPTs. I'm just looking for the name, how they phrased it. But I cannot totally recall. But it was somehow, I think, stopped again. So Copilot for Enterprise, a little bit difficult because Microsoft is naming everything Copilot right now. On the one hand, there is the chat tool, also the business version of that. Then you have Copilot 365, which is the integration into the Office tools. And there was also, but I think it is discontinued, that you can add your own sources to chat with that. In the end, if the later is there, you have to test if that is enough for you. But from my explorations, at least a couple of months ago, it was also then again not on the level we have here. It's not guiding you very often to the passage in the sources you need for. You can get started for free here, so just compare is my advice. Use the enterprise version and look for a document or multiple documents which don't have IP, so no intellectual properties. Put it into both, ask the same questions, and then judge the results. Look if one is working better, and that is the way to go. Then a great insights from Momo. Thanks for that. Rick, thanks for informative presentation. Is there a cost of sharing, collaborating with one person? As of today, there is no cost. Business version will for sure cost, or very likely cost. A couple of weeks back, the software was having the experimental tag. With that, it's quite possible in Google that it disappears from one day to the next. They were removing that experimental tag right now, and they also see how much traction they are getting. So I think NotebookLM is here to stay, but with Google you don't know. Google was ending many projects which were super successful, but yeah, didn't fit into their business plans anymore. So next question, use cases. I can show which Copilot can't do. Don't have anything prepared there. So like stated, test it on your own with some documents you can use in the Google Cloud or Google servers. Okay, then confirmation that she's talking about the Office tools. If you are talking about the Office tools, there is one drawback. You work in one file, and here you can add 50 files and see cross-references between them, and you can more or less create a project and have a conversation in that project with multiple files, and that is to some extent different, but I think Microsoft is also working in that direction because it's more powerful than just in one file. Yes, and then John is pointing to Notebook Llama. That is the meta version I mentioned, so the meta clone of it. I tested it yesterday again. Audio quality is not on the same level. It's stopping mid-sentence and then going to the second host in the example they are sharing, which should be cherry-picked, so don't know. But like Ethan Mollick, author of Co-Intelligent States, that is the worst it will ever be, so we will see progress there. So likely also Notebook Llama from Meta will improve. Then we have another thanks. The cost is ownership of your data. I totally agree. And I stated that I use tools which have local files for my note-taking. And as much as I love that, currently there is no local alternative on the same level. But if you're not up to that, so don't use it right now, or use it with files where you are willing to share. And what we see here and the traction the tool is getting will likely also, and Meta is showing that, because Meta is having open models which you can run locally. It's just a matter of time when you can run something similar locally. But to get started right now, use the version we have. It's free, you pay with your data. That's totally right. But select what you're willing to share and what not. And then 2 more thanks and no other question. The hour is over. Feel free, if there is anything left, ask. If there is some thoughts later, feel free to just reply to the invitation mails, send me a mail, ask a question. I do my best to support and help. And thanks again for joining live. Super cool. Explore the tool. And that's it for today. Thanks, guys.